All right, and welcome in, everybody, to episode number 6. Andy Beckstrom with Shawn Field here for the Two Guys and a Beer podcast. Glad you could join us for Shells is what we're diving into today.
Shells out of New Ulm, Minnesota.
Another local beer. That's
Hometown.
Local ones, just upper Midwest, but this is definitely kind of close, near and dear, I guess, nearish, about 3+ hours.
Yeah, probably from
Give or
our
take
place.
from here. Yeah.
Where we reside, yeah.
So yeah, I guess for those that might not know, we are in Minnesota. So if you didn't know that before.
Flyover states.
Yeah, that's where we're at. But yeah, we're looking at Shells today, and continuing our theme of the month is Octoberfest. And so we have the Shells Octoberfest. So if you listened last time and you went out and you got some Shells Oktoberfest, feel free to go ahead and crack that with us. And let's get this going. Should be pretty good night.
This is some pretty good Octoberfest. I'll have to say I've never tried it before, and it's local to us.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, the first drink of it, I'm like, hot damn. This is some good shit.
It's a good start.
Like, holy cow.
It's a good start to the process then, for sure.
Well, there's so many Oktoberfest beers out there with craft breweries. You know, I just can't get it to them all, and this is one I haven't tried, which is weird because Shells is fairly large. It's a large company. Damn, yeah. I think I need to drink some more.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like you said, almost everybody that brews beer has to have the proverbial Oktoberfest. Right, it's kind of like everybody has an IPA or everybody has whatever. But yeah, the Oktoberfest is very seasonal, but yeah, everybody has one.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So we're diving into Shells today. Should be a fun episode. Lots of information out there on Shells. If you've ever spent some time on their website or just Googling them, looking around, me and Shawn were talking a little bit earlier. There's information that he had found in other places, and there's a ton of info out there because it is old. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. Like it's been around for a hot minute.
Long time. Yeah, like the Moosehead Brewery we did episode 1 was that 1850s or 1860s, something like that, too. Here's another one that you're pulling up here is from, the 1860 it started, I think you said?
It is the oldest brewery in Minnesota and the second oldest brewery in the nation.
Oh, wow.
Only behind Yuengling.
Oh, yeah, that's another beer I've never had.
Family owned. I guess I don't know if that's a qualifier and there's anything else there or whatever. But 1860. Didn't incorporate till 1902, but we'll get into that a little later. But 1860 is when it started. So it's been around for the good times, the hard times, the bad times, some more other good times, and it's the largest, or at least at the time in 2010. And we'll get more into what that means too. But it was the largest producer of beer in Minnesota.
Nice.
And it's still not,
like it.
One of those Coors Light kinds or whatever. It's
right. I suppose their
not
Coors
a massive
Light
one, more of a smaller one.
Yeah, their Coors Light kind of beer is probably be Grain Belt would be their Coors Light kind of beer, which they bought.
Kind of some easy drinking.
Which Grain Belt is good beer too. We'll probably do that on one podcast one of these days too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be a fantastic one. Are you going to get the Grain Belt Blue for that one or maybe the standard?
I haven't tried the Grain Belt Blue. I've just had the Northeast and the original Grain Belt, and I've been looking for they have like a Mexican type themed Grain Belt beer,
Mexican
like a Corona
almost?
or something like that. But I can't seem to find it anywhere, but it's on their website. But when I've looked for it, I can't seem to find it. But it's like a seasonal summer type beer,
I suppose,
for them. So
okay. I'll have to try to keep an eye out for that one for sure. I've had the blue it's decent. It's good, but it's very sweet in my opinion.
Sure.
It's very good for the one, and then sometimes the second one is I'm going to go to something else.
It's enough, yeah.
So, but I mean, everybody's got different levels of desire for that. But yeah, the Northeast was always fantastic.
Yeah, that one's pretty good.
The standard is really good, but the Northeast is really good.
It's probably the best one of them, I think. And of course, we talk about Grain Belt because Shells that we're doing here on this podcast owns Grain Belt. So
yeah, and we'll get into the timing of that here in a little bit. That's kind of a bit of a trivia as well on that as well. So we'll fire up the Wayback Machine, dial her up, and insert theme, I guess.
Back to the Future, the flux capacitor.
Right, exactly.
It's in drive.
So Let me ask you this, Sean. This is the first thing I got to ask you. For your family, do you have a family crest that has the logo and anything like that?
Well, yeah. Who doesn't have a family crest?
I don't. We don't.
It's on full display right above my garage.
I might have to do something like that. I might have to.
I light it up with LEDs and everything. So when the car comes up, it just boom.
So it's not just like a keystone on a bridge or anything. It's it's a whole different deal.
It's modernized.
I like it. Bringing it to now. So the family crest is actually still involved with Schell's beer. It's the deer that's on the top. So if you have the can, if you look at the top of the can there, he was born February 15th, 1828. We're talking August Schell. He's the original founder of the brewery. Born in Durbach, Germany, in the Black Forest. Father's a forester, and the family crest featured a buck deer, which, as I mentioned, is on the can still to this day. So kind of an interesting little factoid kind of going back on what he was doing.
And Shells is still family owned by generation.
And it's generationally, perfect. It is still... It's a different name, but it's still the family. It's still even the same family. So that's an incredible part, because we've talked about some of the other breweries that have gone through multiple different hands and sometimes not family owned and then bought back and things like that. But this one's been kind of remarkable with the way the family kind of came and went as well. So it's kind of it'll be a fun meander, I guess, through the ages here. Initially, August Schell, he believe it or not, he did not start out as a brewmaster, machinist by trade in Germany. Then decided, that was enough for him, and decided, we're going to the States. I'm out. See you guys later. So he took a ship and went to New Orleans, made his way up the Mississippi River, and settled in Cincinnati, which maybe at that time it was a fantastic area. But, they probably had some machinist stuff going on, there. So that was he apparently worked for Cincinnati Locomotive Works as a machinist. That's where he met his future wife, Teresa Herman. They got married in 1853, had two of their oldest daughters that fall, and
sounds like backbreaking work there.
It definitely is. Raising two daughters, I'm sure. And that's when they decided that, Cincinnati's probably not the place for me. So he decided to join a group that headed north, led by Wilhelm Feinder of the Turner Colonization Society of Cincinnati.
Wow.
Dropping that knowledge. So next time you're out drinking with the buddies, go ahead and be like, do you know where, they can just throw some random stuff out there.
Or maybe they're playing Jeopardy. It could be a final Jeopardy question.
Exactly. You never know when this information is going to come in useful. So 1857, they arrive in New Ulm, and that's kind of where they kind of get set up. August took a job of flour mill grinding and repairing, and that's kind of where they set up shop, and then had 4 more kids.
More backbreaking work.
Exactly. So around about 1860, as we mentioned, that's kind of when the brewery started, because apparently he's a thirsty guy. A lot of German people around that area, thirsty people. And apparently, so this is the other part that I thought was kind of funny that they mentioned on their website. Apparently, being a thirsty German does not necessarily qualify you to brew beer.
Oh, okay.
I thought that would be like one of the first things that would be on the resume.
Seems like a good way into it.
Exactly. So they,
especially Octoberfest beer.
Oh, naturally,
it's a German thing.
A German style.
Yeah.
So he had to, find somebody else. So Jacob Bernhardt was a former brewmaster that actually, ironically, worked for the company that ultimately became Minnesota Brewing Company.
Oh, okay. Which
will tie back in later with everything we're going to talk about. So he had left them and partnered with August. They built a small brewery on the banks of the Cottonwood River, just outside of town. So built a little thing, threw some bricks out there, got a little thing going, and started their first year with 200 barrels, which, again,
pretty sizable, starting 31 gallons a barrel.
So by my math, carry the one, we're talking 6,000 to 7,000 gallons, I guess, over the course of a year. If you have a brewery and you're slinging pint after pint at the local Germans, trying to.
Well, they do drink a lot, the Germans. When we talk about some Oktoberfest later in the episode, we'll get some information on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So they get going on that, and as I mentioned, a couple of 100 barrels worth of work, and that's when not drama, but the world starts happening, I guess, is the way that I'll put it. At the time, there was the Sioux Uprising, the Dakota Conflict, a lot of things going on, Native American related. We don't need to go into the specific history of all that. But because of that conflict, most of New Ulm was kind of burned to the ground and destroyed. But they spared the brewery because the family had been good to basically everybody, like both sides, and especially Native Americans. They had given them food and possibly sampled some beer or two, but they were good to them. And so they're like, all right, not this one. It's this one can stay. This one can hang out. So it was kind of interesting to be able to see, you know, like they've always had kind of that history of being a part of the community, whatever that community is.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, that is very interesting.
So August at the time, as I mentioned, split time with Jacob Bernhardt. About 1866, Bernhardt gets ill and decides to sell his share of the brewery. And this is a kind of an interesting fact that I had to read it 3 different times when I went back after it. August, at the time, wanted to make sure that Jacob got the highest possible sale price for the beer because of his illness and just he was part of the thing. You know, you're part of the thing. I want to make sure that you're going to get the best. So he didn't go to him and be like, I tell you what, I'll give you $1.380. We'll just make it work and you can stay on the company insurance or something like that or whatever. No, he put it open sale.
Anybody.
So he put the whole brewery open for everything.
Wow.
But August had the highest bid. So ultimately it stayed with August, but he was still willing to put it out there. Took the gamble, like
to have other people bid on it.
Yep, go ahead and bring it. And he bought this with the winning bid of a whopping $12,000. Of course, in 1866.
Right. Back then, that's a big chunk of change.
You got to rub a couple of pennies together to be able to come up with that. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of incredible. You don't see that something like for partners, like I'm going to sell it to anybody. No, I want to keep it within the partnership. But
that kind of goes to show what type of people they were. If the Indians and their conflict there spared their brewery but burned New Ulm to the ground because they were nice people and worked with everybody, that just goes to show right there, too, again, the type of family they are and the type of people they are.
Absolutely. It's fantastic stuff learning some of these things with these breweries. But Shells is, I mean, it's the good beer, but it kind of not changed, but like added a little more enlightenment, I guess, in a way. So over the course of the years, about 1878, it's everything is going well, brewery flourishing. And then the old arthritis bug starts to show up. And I believe in 1878, I don't know that they had a whole lot of the old bareback and body or anything like that. They didn't have much of that. They didn't have any
turmeric drinks.
Yeah, no like Bengay to rub into the joints or anything like that. But he didn't want to leave the brewery, but still wanted to be involved in it, but obviously couldn't do a whole lot with it. So as that got a little bit worse, he invited in Adolf, the eldest son. So Adolf Schell assumed everyday management along with Otto Schell. Otto Schell became the bookkeeper and Adolf kind of ran operations. So August stayed there and just kept enjoying the hustle and bustle. Kind of one of those, the old farm kind of guys, I guess, in a way. Maybe not even farm, just the older guys that like, got to do something. Got to get.
They got to stay busy.
Exactly. Can't slow down. So he passed it on basically to his kids, but still was in and around doing stuff. So didn't really want to give up on that. Over the course of the years, they also built the Shells Mansion. 1885 built that, formal gardens, and there's a deer park, and a lot of that stuff still exists there even to this day. They are also on the National Register of Historic Sites.
Oh wow! Their actual house. I wonder if we can tour the house or tour the mansion. I wonder.
It's still something that they've kind of created an area to be able to tour that and gift shops and things like that. Sure. So it's still something you can go and visit. So
since you've been to a bazillion breweries, have you been to the Shells Brewery and taken a tour?
I have not. I'm a little bit saddened
Maybe
that
we
I
should
haven't.
do that here before it gets too cold out.
I love that idea. That's a fantastic idea. I see gloriousness in that plan. So, yeah, we definitely have to do that because it's not even that far. Like we said, it's a little more than 3 hours from here, because he went up to the Keweenaw.
Right. Went
like
up there. It was 5 hours.
Yeah, just, cruise up there.
Spur of the moment. Just take a video.
Yeah, why not? I should have done that today. It's what I should have. I should have called in sick and, headed down there. It would have been far more useful.
You don't need to make money.
Exactly. No. Yeah. Well, sick time. That's fine.
Right.
So, arthritis, as I mentioned, kind of slowed him down a little bit. So he got a little bit more into gardening. So that's what part of the gardening with the house started happening. And that's where a lot of that came from. 1891, though, at the age of 63, August passed away September 20th. And so the ownership transferred then to his wife, Teresa, who became the owner. The sons, again, still managing and running the brewery. Adolf kind of running things, but he decided, you know what? It's too cold here. I'm going to California.
Oh, wow.
So he takes
bolted.
off. And Otto stays, and he takes over as the primary managing partner, president, I guess, because it's before they hadn't incorporated at this point. So just the guy that's in charge, I guess, so Otto is now in charge at this point in time. Otto, though, realizing there's more breweries popping up all over the place, including in New Ulm, decides we need to expand. We need to do some different stuff. Let's get some stuff going. And so they were producing at the time about 9,000 barrels a year. Now remember, this is 1892. So 32 years before that, they were at 200. So now they're up to 9,000
barrels.
So quite some expansion over the course of the years. Otto decides, you know what? We're going to expand. We're going to double that production and modernized and upgraded some machinery. And so took that risk, clearly paid off.
It worked out for him. Yeah, it sure did.
It needed more help around there. So he also summoned his sister, Emma. And this is going to be key to the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey will join us for the rest of the story. So Otto brought his sister, Emma, and her husband, George Marty, to the brewery to be able to help. Marty and Emma had owned a drugstore in West St. Paul. And after 18 years of that, they're like, you know what? That's fine. Let's go and do that. Let's go do the brewery thing. To me, it sounds like more fun than a drugstore.
Sounds a lot more fun. Yeah.
That's you never know. So they take the wife and kids, and George and Emma come to be able to help out at this new brewery, which is now doing 18 to 20,000 barrels a year. So
wow,
pretty solid brewery at this point in time. But one of the things that we've talked about a little bit is like the different types of beer and the different ways you brew it. You got to beerify it. Lagering is a very temperature and humidity controlled type of process. And a lot of German beers have, it's a German lager. Yeah. And so that's what they kind of had to do. So the problem that they would run into is there wasn't a lot of ice that was around. They would try to harvest it from the Cottonwood River and haul it down to caverns deep beneath the brewery is how they would do it. If you ever go on a tour of, I think it's the Miller Coors in Milwaukee.
Yeah, we did that one time.
Yeah, they take you down in there. That was the best part too. At the very end, everybody's like, what time is it? And they expected Miller time. But somebody way in the back was like, Tool time. Yeah. That was the best part. That was great. Yeah. They had the same kind of thing going on there where they had to haul everything down, which doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. 30 gallons at a time, I'm sure. I don't know if they carry it in there or how they transport, if they put it in smaller kegs, or probably more work than I'm probably willing to put in right now. So they haul it underneath there. The beer would age there and the ice would start to melt in early summer. Needless to say, that doesn't exactly allow you to brew year round. And so you're kind of limited with what you can do. Refrigeration to the rescue.
Yeah.
So around 1900, they invest in some of that and they get a little bit easier. They're able to brew year round at that point in time. 1902, they incorporate. Otto had been managing the operations for many years, but it wasn't until 1902 that the board of directors officially declared Otto Schell as the president and Teresa Schell as the owner and vice president, and then George Marty as the secretary and treasurer. So, again, the family all involved. Although George Marty is, as you may remember, is the husband of Emma Marty, but Emma Schell. That was one of the daughters.
And Adolf is missing out, and he's in California, unfortunately.
Yep, he's still hanging out in California, wants nothing to do. He's just hanging out, surfing, and taking longboards or something like that. Maybe he was in San Diego, where there's a future brewery you might do. Maybe he was involved in that or something. Yeah. January 14th, though, Otto suddenly dies at the age of 49.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I know. I kind of probably should have prefaced that. Should have maybe broke it down a little bit better. But the town, the brewery, everybody, the family members, very shocked by that because he was very active in the community. Needless to say, the way the whole Schell family had been up to then, you could about imagine how involved everybody was in the area. This obviously didn't sit real well on the health and welfare for Teresa Schell, and she passes away just 4 months later. So a lot of changing over there. And now as they kind of transition from there, George Marty, the husband of Emma Schell, the daughter, is now appointed president of the operations and the brewery itself has remained in the Marty name ever since.
Oh, okay.
So that was where we talked about that it's still within that same name. It's not a Schell, but it was the wife. So same family, but just the last name had changed.
Yeah.
So the other side of it. George and Emma's son, Al, returned to the brewery. Alfred is his name. He comes back to the brewery in 1913 to be a bookkeeper. At a short time, he decides to move to Montana. So he was there for just a little bit. So there's a lot of
very long.
Yeah, there's a lot of in and out with this family. But I suppose, if you have a big productive thing and you can I'm going to go out to Montana and buy 3,000 acres and let some caribou run or something.
Yeah, I still think it'd be more fun to be involved in the family business, though.
I would think so.
Like to have that type of opportunity would be just awesome, especially beer brewing.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. So he's there for a little bit and then heads out to Montana with his brother Edward. They operated a grain farm and became cattle buyers. So
that doesn't sound anywhere near as fun.
It really doesn't. But I think that they came back, if I remember correctly. Okay. We'll have to check here. Biggest problem though, 1919. You remember what happened in 1919?
No.
Prohibition.
Oh yeah. Hello.
That'll get you.
I haven't had enough Octoberfest yet to come up with some good ideas in my brain.
Right.
Remembering that. So after a couple more of
really
these,
good ideas,
the good ideas start rolling.
So 1919, the 18th Amendment changes things. Prohibition, which now makes beer illegal. Kind of hard to sustain a business, when you have you're a brewery.
Yeah, it makes it a bit tough. Yep.
Yeah, definitely changes things. So 1920, what are you going to do? Well, let's try to come up with different things. They start making soft drinks and candy, and they make what's called near beer. Near beer typically contained less than 0.5% alcohol and is also known as Coors Light. Sorry, I probably take two. At some point, we should probably do Miller Coors as or even just Coors as our discussion that day. If there's anybody listening from Miller Coors or anything, go ahead and tag us on Facebook or and Twitter. Any of our social platforms. We'd love to have a chat with you. It'd be kind of fun. So they do that. Basically, what that is, near beer is kind of like what you would see now with an O'Doul's or any of the NA beers. I really want the taste of beer without the
alcohol. I wonder if they still make the near beer. Is it called near beer? That's actually kind of a clever name.
Yeah, at the time they did. I think they probably just call it an NA now. But years ago, I actually had a party when I lived a little east of here. I don't know if you were there or not or whatever. But I had a friend that's I don't drink, but I'm going to drink O'Doul's until I get drunk. Because there's a little bit of alcohol in there.
Well,
after about 16 of them, I'm like, how are you feeling? He's like, I'm just full. What are you doing? Early 20s, you make really. You were saying enough Octoberfest, you're going to have great ideas falling out. Yeah, early 20s. Let me tell you how many great ideas happened between the two of us.
I wonder if they still make their candy, Shells candy.
That'd probably be pretty good.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I bet you they probably got it at the the gift house.
Maybe they do there. They probably don't make their own though. I suppose if they have any at all with their name on it, I'm sure it's contracted out to some company to make it for them. Which
that's another failure by me. They're not doing the research and going down there. I could have had this information right at hand, first-hand information. So if anybody is listening out there, though, definitely check in on various social media platforms and let us know if you've had the candy or if the candy even still exists. I guess let us know if it is. Near beer is fine, but let's go ahead and get some speakeasies going and let's just keep making the beer and keep doing that. So they were still obviously getting it out there and still happening because you can't keep a good thing down. They just keep doing stuff. 1921, though, brewery is starting to struggle amidst the prohibition. So who comes back? Al, that was there for a minute and then left to Montana. So he comes back. He is a salesman to help his father and family, trying to be able to help keep the doors from closing and try to keep the brewery going. Other breweries were closing left and right. At the beginning of Prohibition, there was about, 1,900 breweries. Okay. At the end of Prohibition in 1933, 13 years. 13 years. For some reason, I thought it lasted a lot less than that.
Yeah, it seemed like it wasn't as long, yeah.
But 13 years later, in December of 1933, so almost 14 years later, there was only 600 left.
Wow.
Shells was one of them. They were able to stay all the way through. And because they had used it for near beer and things related to beer, a lot easier to be able to just, all right, guys, let's put the thing back in the bit and keep her going, make it happen. So near beer kind of, I guess, saved the real beer, I guess, in a way.
Sure. Or the speakeasy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, have you been to any speakeasies at all?
I have not, but I want to, and I just haven't been. I know there's one in Duluth that I want to go to that I haven't been in, but
there's two in Anoka. Ironically, like I don't know where there's a lot of Minnesota, but there's two of them in Anoka with like a block and a half away from each other.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
So they're both pretty cool. They both got their own kind of thing or whatever, but it's kind of funny because, I mean, yes, there was like cocktails involved with speakeasies, but I always think of like speakeasies where they would like take the axe to like the big vat of beer. You know what I mean? Like the barrels of beer like that or whatever. But there's not a lot of beer on tap at speakeasies. It's mostly like craft cocktails and old fashions and things like that.
That's what I would think would be just beer. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think of a speakeasy as being underground, in the basement, underneath the roads. You're dark, not very lit up, and then people like Al Capone come walking through the door.
Maybe some jazz playing in the background. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of what I always thought. But I don't know. Maybe they were then. I guess I wasn't around in the 30s to be able to check it out. But if anybody was, go ahead and mention out. So 1934, as we move forward here with the history of Shells beer, George, as we mentioned before, George Marty had been the owner at the time, passes away at the age of 77 and leaves the brewery to Emma and their oldest son, Al, who, as you remember, took off and came back. He comes back to now be the vice president and manager of day-to-day operations, with their youngest son, Edward, being a brewmaster. So now the son, so I think it's Al's younger brother, Edward. So George and Emma's son, Edward, in 1934, now is the brewmaster. Al becomes the president after Emma dies in 1940. So now it's kind of still passing, but it's still within that same
third generation now.
Yep. So we're into the third generation, known as kind of the vice president of things and day-to-day operations. He was the fun-loving sort and enjoyed music almost as much as the beer that he brewed, which is going to come back in. A hobby that was passed on to him from his father, George. 1948, the creation of the Shells Hobo Band.
Oh, wow.
Which is still happening today.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's absolutely still going on. He gathered some musicians around there, began sponsoring the crew's music with the Shells logo and financial backing. They were known fondly as the Shells Hobo Band. Circus-style music and their crazy antics. The band became famous through the years and still entertains crowds, young and old, to this day.
Wow, that's interesting. We better check that out when we go down there.
Absolutely.
Where do they perform?
Well, and so this is the part that, I feel a little bit bad because when I was doing the research, I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, so when are the events coming up? When is Octoberfest? Because it's a German brewery. Yeah. They got to have some sort of massive, this episode is probably going to come out just after Octoberfest. So unfortunately, we just missed it. But they have another event, Bockfest, which is in March. So might try to hit that one up. But if nothing else, in mid-October is their Octoberfest. So the Hobo Band plays. They have all sorts of different things, different events that they have on site. A lot of fun to be had. Tomfoolery and shenanigans.
Well, next year we'll be there.
Absolutely.
Live 100%. On location.
That'd be great. Do kind of like maybe we'll have somebody from the brewery on to be able to talk about the history a little bit as well. We kind of go over it here, but we could get a little deeper dive into maybe even some of their traditions that they have.
Yeah,
absolutely. Cool. But we'll put a pin in and notate that one for future planning. 1969, Al, as we mentioned, had come back. He gives up his role as president, but he's far from retired. He remained active at the brewery until his death in 1977, but he had passed on the presidency, I guess, if you will, to his son, Warren. Warren had been working at the brewery basically his entire life from when they moved back from Montana. He was considered the jack of all trades because he started as a gardener, worked in the bottle house as a supervisor, was a salesman, a bookkeeper, and a brewmaster.
Wow.
So I kind of like it. I know that there's, especially in the corporate world, there's a lot of people that like, I'm a manager. I have an MBA or I have whatever. And like, you don't know anything about the thing, but I'm in charge.
Yeah.
And you don't see it all that often where you get somebody that like you were the guy that was sweeping the floor and then you were in charge of mopping the floor and then you were in charge of waxing, you know what I mean? Kind of like slowly progress and eventually become, especially if you're like part of the family too. You know, that's another part of it too. They didn't just like silver spoon him and, it's like, all right, you're now in charge. It was, he kind of worked his way up and really kind of got into it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So spent some time in World War II, was a teacher, did a lot of different things.
He would be the fourth generation now.
Fourth generation.
Owner type per se, president, fourth generation president of the company.
Yep. He brings a lot of change to the brewery, a lot of things that still are going on today. Again, you'll see that kind of theme too, that, there's a lot of stuff that happened a long time ago that is still going on. Warren brought some different things, including Schell's Export, Schell's Light, and in 1970, contracted with Arneson Distributing to make 1919 root beer.
Oh, nice.
So Schell's makes the 1919 root beer, which
That's
is,
some good root beer too.
Had no idea.
Yeah, if you've never had that root beer, man, try that root beer. If it's in your area, it's really good root beer.
It's fantastic. There's a lot of things at the state fair every year that I always try to go and get. And ironically, like 1919 root beer float is one of those things.
Sure.
I know it's a root beer float and blah, 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 blah. There's an A&W about 10 miles away from me.
Yeah, it's still not 1919
1919, oh, primo.
They actually have 1919 root beer at Cambridge Bar and Grill in town.
Oh, on tap?
On tap, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. You can get it in a frosty mug and everything too. Oh, it's so good.
That's fantastic. This era is about the time that they also they were part of the forefront, but this was when collecting beer cans became prominent. Like I collect growlers, as we talked about in a prior episode. But collecting cans was becoming pretty prominent. So they started making some kind of unique cans with that as well. Let's see here. What else do we got going on? So they also, in 1974, it's kind of oddity, a little bit more off the beaten path. In 1974, they also invested in a very large hydroponic garden.
Okay. In the 70s, they're having those type of gardens. Okay.
Exactly. Ted, one of Warren's sons, returned to the brewery to manage the gardens. They would grow tomatoes and many other things. And a lot of the workers would actually come in early for their shift to be able to tend to the plants before they would actually start.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just not something you would. All right, this big brewing family. We're in the fourth generation, fifth generation, like the fourth generation of and they have this hydroponic garden with all the tomatoes. What? Okay.
I wonder if they used any of those ingredients in any of their beers, the stuff that they grew.
Not that, but we will get there.
All right.
There is a connection to some of that here coming up, which of course, great decisions made over beer.
Right.
That's going to be kind of
after a couple. I mean, they just get better and better. The more you drink, the better they become.
Exactly. Yeah. All the decisions they're primo.
I've never had an idea I didn't like after a few cans of beer.
That's the carry the one. Yeah. The math adds up on that one. Yeah. I follow that. Yeah. 100%. So 1975, more breweries had opened up after Prohibition, obviously from 1933, but now up to 1975, obviously beer's selling a lot more because people are getting back into it and breweries popping up everywhere. So a lot of the smaller breweries are starting to board up. Mega breweries are starting to dominate the landscape. But Warren, he wasn't going to give up on it. And in a last-ditch effort, decided, you know what? On these grounds that August had bought, we have all these big old black walnut trees. I wonder how much the lumber's worth.
The lumber on black walnut is worth an ass load.
The math adds up on that one too,
huge.
Because it kept the doors open at that point in time. Things were tough in the 70s, but that basically saved the brewery.
That is very interesting. It's interesting you say that because I know a little bit about black walnut lumber because people have been trying to convince me to plant some of those on some of my property. Not for me, of course, because they take a long time to be mature enough to harvest, but for my kids and grandkids and stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about planting trees, so it's probably not in the cards for me. But I looked up how much black walnut lumber probably about a year or two ago, and I'm like, hot damn, that shit is worth a ton of money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible that it's something like that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm going to sell the lumber. But it's that specific kind of lumber.
It's that specific one, yeah.
It's just, I guess, in a way fateful because that was 1975, but it was 1860 or even before that August Schell had picked that land. There's no way, or maybe he just had that incredible forethought, but there's no way that he's like, there's a lot of black walnut trees. I think this is going to be a good spot for future investment. He probably is just like, this is a really nice place overlooking the lake. I think that the wife is going to love it here. I mean... Something along those lines.
I wonder how many acres they originally bought there.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't see. It doesn't say, at least on the part that I was looking at. But
when we go there in a few weeks, we can ask them.
That can be the follow-up question.
How many acres do you have around here?
Exactly. That can be the follow-up. I know they have expanded multiple times, which is something that is coming up here in about the 90s. About some different expansion things, but it had to have been a decent amount of land to be able to have at least, I mean, I don't know if you cut down one black walnut, if it's worth, like $3 million or something, but either way, it got them through the 70s. So 1984, that's where they start to study a little bit more of the craft beer style. And one of these sons, Ted Marty now, this is, I believe, 5th generation, if math serves, led the charge to bring craft beer to Minnesota. He studied a lot of German breweries, and they made their first wheat beer after Prohibition in 1984. It's been transformed now into their seasonal Hefeweizen brew, which is still something that they make and distribute,
nice.
which I've had, and I want to say that I kind of liked it. I don't like a lot of Hefeweizen. Some of them, they're very weedy, but
right.
Like that one I thought was pretty good. So pretty solid beer. So 1984, that's when that came out. Warren retires, and Ted at that time, again, 5th generation, spent most of his upbringing around the brewery and extensive studies under many breweries in Germany, brought his entrepreneurial leadership and skills as a brewmaster with the introduction of a bunch of craft beers, and a reason the brewery was still thriving in a mega brewery dominated market. So definitely, like they're not resting on their laurels. They're not just be like, oh, we're Shells. We've been around for a long time. It's fine.
Right.
They're expanding and changing and doing a lot of things, which
you have to stay in business.
100%.
If you don't change, you end up like Kmart or something, so you have to change, expand, do things differently, think outside the box.
Sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't, but you got to be able to make that adjustment. Yeah, it's quite fantastic to be able to see some of the changes they've made. 80s were well received, so they decided, let's just keep going with that. They start making the alt and the pale ale. Ted's reputation became very solid, and of the 38 beers being produced at Shells in 1990, 16 of them were actually contracted and sold under different names.
Oh, interesting.
So they're making 38 beers, and really 22 of those were theirs, but 16 of them were somebody else.
For somebody else, yeah.
We want this guy to make our beer. I mean, of course, it also helps when you have the infrastructure for it, too. And that's, I think we've talked a little bit about that, too, with like some of the smaller breweries. To be able to get a larger distributorship, like I believe it's Liney's, they still have their location in Wisconsin, but most of their stuff is brewed at like Miller Coors in Milwaukee or in other locations. Just the nature of the beast.
Or old style was Pabst.
Exactly. So, yeah. So Shells has the wherewithal to do it, and of course the expertise. So bring it on. Let's go ahead and let's make some stuff for you. State-of-the-art brew house built in 1999. Was going after a lot of craft lagers, but they were no longer the days of 200 barrels of production. A new state-of-the-art brew house was built into the hillside in an effort to increase capacity. 4 stainless steel kettles were imported from Germany as an ode to the strong German tradition. Still expanding, building it into the side of a hill to be able to get more available. And this starts to get into the early 2000s, 2002. This is what we were talking about before. Grain Belt was basically filing bankruptcy at this point. Things were not going well. They were a few months away from closing their doors, and Shells makes a huge purchase and buys Grain Belt. But they didn't change it. They didn't just like, nope, it's now going to be a version of Shells. Nope, it's going to be Grain Belt. They eventually, years and years, and I think it talks about it like later down here, but in 2017, to kind of jump ahead a little bit, they actually, over years of haggling and fighting and arguing and just putting a bunch of money in it, the original Grain Belt sign, they have restored and turned back on.
Yeah, right. On the other side of the bridge. Mm-hmm. Whatever. Was it the Lowry Bridge?
I think so.
Lowry Street Bridge or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So they put
up LEDs.
It wasn't like they just, like, nope, Grain Belt's just going to be another one that we just make. It was, nope, this is going to be, it's still going to be Grain Belt.
It's like
it's going to be a wing of, what we do. So kind of a fun thing. It used to be a rivalry, now a friendship. And at the time, 2002 made Shells the largest brewery in terms of production in the state of Minnesota. 2005, they had a hospitality complex, which has the visitor center and some of the things we were talking about, expanded gift shop and employee break room, things like that. 2010, generation, what are we at, 6 now?
Yep.
Generation 6. After spending most of his time at the brewery, Jace is now in charge. Oh. This is going to be Jace Marty. So still the Marty name, after the Shells. Again, it went from Shells to Marty because it was Emma Schell. So the husband, Marty, kind of went down through that angle there. So studied in Germany and Austria, and then coming to the brewery with new ideas and became passionate about sours and started out the Noble Star collection just a couple of years later. So again, continuing to expand, continuing to add different things, and added the Berliner Weiss, which is a wheat beer, which also had a sour beer, but it's got some sweetness too, also with the Berliner. So
never had that one either.
I've not had that one at all either, but it's something that, they really wanted to try to expand beyond what they had. So everybody's kind of putting their own stamp on things as well. So, which is kind of fun to be able to see. One of the things about making that type of beer, though, is using wood fats. It allows the beer to breathe just a little bit, which is very helpful with that style of beer. In 2012, they released the Star of the North, and they'd make the decision, you know what, with these wood barrels, it'll actually expand that a little bit. And if we're going to do that, let's go ahead and commit to it. So they build a separate facility for the remainder of the styles within that sour vein. And so they have a land on the north end of town that houses beers and a tap room that has 10 cypress wood tanks that are right there lining each end of the hall. And then there's just a bunch of tables in the middle. And that's what the tap room is.
We need to go there.
You're in the thing.
We need to go in the thing and try some of these sour wheat beers.
And so it's just fantastic what they've done over the years. And then the most recent thing, obviously the most recent thing was the 2017, they lit the grain belt sign. Obviously they had a whole event and a ceremony with that. But in 2016, just before that, it's in farmland. If you've ever been to kind of like somewhat southwest Minnesota, a lot of hills, but at the same time, farmland everywhere over a couple of years. There was a decision made between a local farmer and the leadership at the brewery, assumedly Jace probably involved in this conversation, that within 15 miles of the brewery, they have decided to make the Fort Road Helles, which will be in a sampler pack, which is the first beer made with 100% local grown barley from that farm.
Oh, wow.
Just 15 miles away.
Oh, that's cool.
So they do have the beer that is uber local.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when local breweries use local ingredients, that are grown right where they get it.
Yeah, it's quite incredible, but I don't know, it's quite crazy, like the twists and turns of where it's gone and where it is and who's in charge. And like I said, it's now all under the heading of Jace Marty, the brewmaster in 2010. That's who's in charge now. So that kind of gets us up to now. In 2020, just some other notes that I was able to come across here. Obviously, if you've been around over the last handful of years, everybody wants to drink super light things and things like hard seltzers and stuff like that. And so the brewery will be releasing a line of grain belt nice breakers.
Oh, yeah, I've read about those.
And low-calorie grain belt elite.
Yeah.
So
I've had that elite before. It's actually pretty good. It actually tastes better than the grain belt light.
Well, there we go.
Elite is pretty good.
So,
or a light lager type beer.
Yeah. Huh. So that's kind of the winding way of Shells, which is still family owned to this day, which is, it's awesome, but it's incredible to me, especially with the handful of ones that we've gone over, that not only still family owned, but still family owned by the same family.
Same family. Yeah, that's what's most interesting. I think they wonder if they'd like to adopt a couple more sons into the family.
I don't see why not.
We should pitch that to them when we go check out the tap room.
I'm willing to sweep floors.
Yeah, if you need another son, I'm available. Whatever you need, you can count on me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's the history. I'm not sure where you're at with your beer as the night goes along, but that's the history of Shells as well. We are drinking.
Well, my can's gone already of the Shells Octoberfest.
Well, we got some more here too.
That's it really is a good Octoberfest. I've never had it before, and one of the comments on our social media talked about this as being one of their favorite Oktoberfests, and that gentleman Nick was correct. This is by far one of the best Oktoberfest beers I've ever had, for sure. I think it's got like a sweet malt taste to it. It's pretty easy drinking. It's kind of balanced for an Oktoberfest or a different flavor beer, and it goes down real easy.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Very smooth. Very smooth. Mine's not quite there, but I think I spent more time babbling, I guess.
Yeah, you were presenting the great history of this awesome brewery to us. And on the can, it does have a ABV rating of 5.8%. Not a ton of alcohol content, but a little more than your basic lager.
Since 1860, brewed to endure. Pretty good. Now, on the back, it talks a little bit about the story. In every drop, it talks about the Hobo Band, even on the can itself. Well, at least on this can. Then my other can talks about something else. So each can has its own little story.
Different, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how many different stories there are, but multiple different stories on the can. So whatever can you have, it's not quite as fun as the Mickey's where you have to try to figure out the game under the cap. It's still pretty good to be able to kind of come up with something a little bit different.
Great choice of beer for this podcast. Good job, Andy.
Yeah. Well, I'm just listening to what the fans want is what I totally didn't have this picked out beforehand. Thanks, Nick, for the suggestion. Right. Yeah. So that's another installment of our Octoberfest style. I think we were talking about doing a couple of different Oktoberfests. So I think the next one that we have is also going to be an Oktoberfest, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, next episode, what we talked about was doing one more Oktoberfest to kind of finish out the month of October and celebrating Oktoberfest style beer. That one, we're going to do the Oktoberfest style beer from Breckenridge Brewery in Littleton, Colorado.
Ooh.
That's what's on tap for the next episode.
I've had some Breckenridge, but I have not had the Oktoberfest.
I have not had either. So
it'll be good to be able to get out there or venture off that beaten path and try some different stuff. So, I mean, it's been a pretty good run so far. The Bell's Oktoberfest was pretty solid, and this Oktoberfest is incredible.
Yeah, I like this one better than the Bell's Oktoberfest for sure.
Yeah, it's very solid, very easy drinking. It'd be interesting to see how the Breckenridge Oktoberfest kind of comes through here. So, of course, Oktoberfest, kind of the German style, I guess, beer overall.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah, and every brewery has their own Oktoberfest beer. It's all called Oktoberfest. It's not named anything different, but that's just the style of beer that each brewery seems to make and continue on with that little tradition.
It's a lager style, I guess. A Marzen lager style is the way Shells is describing it. So, but as far as Oktoberfest, I think you had some info on just the history of Oktoberfest. So if people out there is kind of experiencing Oktoberfest for the first time, again, we just missed out on the Shells Oktoberfest party, which would have been a lot of fun to go to. But next year we'll try to be on location for that.
Yeah, that would have been a lot of fun to go check out one of the Oktoberfest festivals. And we did talk on the last episode about sharing with everybody kind of the origins of Oktoberfest and a little bit of history about it. Oktoberfest, it is an annual festival. It's held in Munich, Germany. That's where the main big festival is over in Munich because, Oktoberfest, Marzen, that's a German beer. So it makes sense that's where the big, massive Oktoberfest is going to be. And actually this festival, if I remember correctly, it's held over a 2-week period too. It's not just like a weekend festival. It's a 2-week festival. And usually it ends in the first Sunday of October. So the actual Oktoberfest itself is over for the month of October because that's when it ends.
Is it okay if I still celebrate it today, though?
I'll celebrate it every day.
I appreciate that.
Especially with this Shells. Shells Oktoberfest. It originated on October 12th in 1810. Is back when the first Oktoberfest took place. It was a celebration of marriage of the Crown Prince of Bavaria, who later became King Louis I.
Oh.
And he was married to Princess Therese von something. I cannot pronounce it. That's the best.
Part of the Von Trapp family.
That's the best you're going to get out of me. Heidelberg's something. That's all I get.
Okay.
That's all you're getting out of me.
I'm guessing it's not the Heidelbergers that have the auction place over here.
It is not those Heidelbergers, no.
Might be a different family.
We'll just call her Therese.
There we go.
Because that's her first name.
Yep,
so
Princess
that's
Therese. There we
sticking
go. Queen
with it.
Therese.
Yes. So the festival back then was only 5 days, and they only really had some horse racing, and they held the horse racing in some open field, and they ended up calling that Theresenweise because of Princess Teresa.
Oh. How about that? So
the original Oktoberfest had nothing to do with beer or anything. It was just a marriage celebration.
That's depressing.
I know. That's kind of what I thought. I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of boring. But
I mean, I'm glad it's evolved over the years, but
hey, it is what it is, I guess. The first year, the next year after, they continued the celebration, and they added agriculture type stuff, an agricultural type fair that kind of came in within the few years after the original celebration of the wedding. So still, no beer, no food, a little bit of horse racing, a little bit of agriculture.
I need me some Oktoberfest beer and one of those giant Bavarian pretzels with some mustard.
Oh,
that's what I'm not showing up for the horse racing unless I got some of that.
Right.
Which don't bring me no Von Hansen's pretzels. It always tricks me every single time. They're like gourmet pretzels, and I think it's going to be that, and it's like a regular pretzel.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Crap.
So back in Back to the Oktoberfest in 1818 is when they finally added some booths for serving food and drink.
There we go.
So we finally get our beer in 1818. And after that, of course, it kept growing. By the late 20th century, they made large beer halls out of plywood with interior balconies, bandstands, and it just continued on and on and on from there. So it was growing larger. There you go. Cracking another Shells Oktoberfest.
Can't put it down.
No, it's good stuff. Nowadays, of course, Oktoberfest, each brewery in Munich erects one of those temporary structures, with some having a seating capacity to seat over 6,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And they erect it just for the 2-week festival for Oktoberfest. And
someday I want to go to that.
Yeah,
Someday.
that would be a lot of fun.
Not Sunday, someday.
Well, we could go Sunday.
We could do that too.
I got an Amex card. Just plane tickets. Here we go.
We did say after about the second beer, the really good ideas start coming out.
Starting to flow. Yeah. The mayor of Munich taps the first keg to open every festival.
Oh, see, that's a reason to run just right there.
During the Oktoberfest festival, upwards of 75,800 hectoliters of beer are consumed by us beer-drinking folks. So if you don't know what a hectoliter is, I don't, but as I found out later on when I was doing a little research, 75,800 hectoliters equals, in American terms, about 2 million gallons of beer. 2 million gallons of beer are consumed within a 2-week span for Oktoberfest in Munich, Germany.
And you say this is in Germany, not in Wisconsin?
You are correct.
Okay. And really, I'm saying that in jealousy, not in like little jest, but mostly just jealousy.
Right, yeah. Which is crazy. That is a lot of beer to be consumed in 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah, especially in a short period of time.
Yeah.
I wonder how much beer goes through the state fair. I'm sure there's a metric out there somewhere.
I bet there is.
Minnesota State Fair, especially lately with the craft beer that they've been doing. Like, let me tell you, there's a lot of beer there. There's a lot of beer and a lot of music.
It's got to be quite a bit. I wonder how much beer is sold in general, like my country, per year.
Oh,
like
I'm sure there's
States.
I'm sure there's a thing somewhere that shows.
I'm sure there's some number somewhere that somebody has.
It's probably on the chive or something. That's
right. Yeah. And with all that 2 million gallons of beer, of course, they continue to expand Oktoberfest. Now they have parades, floats. People dress up in the folk costumes, do the dancing, the old type of dancing, games, amusement rides, all that fun stuff. The last Oktoberfest, not the last one, I'll say, on average, it draws more than 6 million people each year to Germany for Oktoberfest. Most of them are tourists.
Right. Sounds right.
And, a lot of us here in America, we celebrate Oktoberfest. There's little festivals and pop-up tents and brewery tastings all over our country.
And podcasts.
And it's beer and German food, of course, that we haven't attended yet, but we plan to. Yeah, it's quite the interesting festival they have over there. Started with a marriage between people. Obviously, it's between people.
And how long, what was the time frame between the marriage and when they actually first started serving beer?
About 8 years.
About 8 years. So 8 years worth of, hey, come and celebrate our wedding. Come and hang out a little bit more. Okay, Martha, I hope they got some beer this time, because if I have to listen to Therese drone on about her horse that's in the thing. Again, I'm reimagining, I'm sure that's how the conversations were.
Oh, I'm sure it was. And then they got to beer and consuming 2 million gallons of beer.
It's quite the celebration.
200 years later.
I'd be interested if there's 2 million people, and you said about 6 million people and 2 million gallons of beer. I'd be interested to know how many of those 6 million people have any idea that they're helping celebrate an anniversary of a wedding. Because I wouldn't. I mean, I didn't.
And most of them are tourists.
Exactly.
So it's not 6 million Germans over there slugging beer. It's tourists going to Munich, Germany to check it out and see what all the partying's about and all the fun stuff over there. Last year, so this is actually this current year, 2023, they set a record attendance over there with 7.2 million people attended Oktoberfest this year. Non-alcoholic beer sales were up 50%. That's kind of strange. Like, what are they drinking over there? I was kind of wondering.
That's it. I guess everybody's got their thing, but I feel like non-alcoholic beer is like I get all of the belly beer with none of the alcohol. It's not like I'm drinking, like if you're drinking more of like the seltzers or whatever, you get none of the taste, but you also get the benefit of not having like as much of the beer gut. I don't know. I have a hard time wrapping my head around any, unless you just really like the taste, but you're just like alcohol. No, I don't know. But it seems like you're still getting all of the after effects.
All the after stuff.
Everything else.
Like the alcohol part is the important part. It kind of makes you feel relaxed and it's a good time. Yeah, I don't know about the NA stuff. Well, I have had NA beer before, and some of it actually tastes okay. You know, it's all right. It tastes like decent beer, but it's just not the same.
Mm-hmm. If I'm going to have beer, I'm going to have beer, I guess, to a certain. If I'm looking for non-alcoholic, I'm just going to have like a water or soda pop,
right?
Something like that, I guess. But that's just me. I mean, some people just really like the taste of beer. I don't know.
Some people, well, apparently, if the sales are up 50%,
it's up 50%.
But 50% of what? I don't know.
That's true. It went from 7 to 14.
Right. It could have went up that much.
6 million people there. 19 of them are drinking NA beer.
NA beer, yeah. Well, so 7.2 million people showed up there this year. A lot of things get lost. So 3,250 items were turned into the lost and found of the 2-week thing. You want to know what was found at the lost and found?
I would love to know.
I knew you were just waiting to hear this.
These are the things that I wait for, and I just hang on.
640 wallets were turned into the lost and found.
I'm sure none of them had cash in them anymore.
580 articles of clothing. That could be good or bad. It depends on your outlook.
What did you do? Kill a cheetah?
520 ID cards, 400 smartphones, 380 bank cards, 200 keys, 310 pairs of glasses, 120 bags, 40 umbrellas, and 60 pieces of jewelry.
40 umbrellas. We'd think that would be higher, but I guess there's probably less people that bring them. But it just seems like I'd get drunk and I'd forget the umbrella, but I wouldn't bring one to begin with. I'm amazed. That one almost like attached me. Like you latch onto like the randomness, like
the weirdness. Like, why would you even bring that? Like, I mean, I guess if it's outside and it's raining, but I don't know. I guess I don't bring a whole lot of shit with me when I go out and about. And then my wallet and my phone, and I make sure it's in my front pocket.
I'd be interested to see, and maybe you have this information ready at your fingertips, but I'd be interested to find out like what they do with some of that stuff. I had a conversation with somebody for the lost and found. I had a water bottle that was misplaced by somebody that took it from me at the state fair this last year. And I mean, it was like a cheap Yeti water bottle. I mean, nice Yeti water bottle, but it wasn't like it was like $200. You know what I mean? And so it was just a very weird thing to try to steal. Like I went to the bathroom, I set it down outside, went in, came back out, it was gone. I'm like, what? Who sells a water bottle? Are you kidding me? Well, maybe it got lost. Maybe it went down to lost and found. So I called down there and they had like 500 water bottles and hundreds of cell phones. And it sounds like at least for there, they give it like a couple of weeks after the fair, but then like all the water bottles get like donated. All of the cell phones after a certain amount of time get flashed blank and then donated to like domestic abuse shelters.
Oh, okay.
I was like, well, not that I want to lose my phone, but like that's a positive place for it to end up if I don't try to call them and say, hey, lost and found, where's my phone after a month?
Yeah, at least they make use of what's been lost and not just throw it in the trash or recycle it or something.
And then all the clothes are donated to, various shelters and things like that. So there was one other thing. I'm trying to remember what it was. There was something else that they would sell. It was just other items. I don't remember what it was, but they would sell them, and then the money for that would go back into like the State Fair Foundation for like improving the grounds, things like that. So, yeah, I'm wondering what they do with that stuff. And not that I care. I mean, they can do whatever they want. Maybe they just text each other from all the phones or something like that. Set up a massive group chat.
They probably do something similar, I would imagine.
Right. That's a lot of stuff, though. Like, oh my God, that's a couple of full-time people just
to go through it all and sort it and do whatever it is you do with it,
Inventory it, try to keep track of like all the people that probably call, the people that did have something stolen. Like I'm sure they're probably calling them and be like, hey, I lost my Shiftamaflu. Sorry, we ain't got none of those back here. We got some widgets, but no Shiftamaflus.
And then talking about not throwing everything, their Shiftamaflus and everything into the garbage. They collected 300 tons of garbage on Octoberfest this year. That's how much garbage is collected.
That sounds right. Obnoxiously right, but it sounds right.
It's a ton, yeah. The ambulance station had to deal with 7,620 patients over the 2-week span. Ugh. I can't imagine what for.
You get 6,000 people there, 6 million people there. Yeah, that's, I'm guessing a lot of stub toes because they got, wood benches, you're hitting a toe on something. That's probably what
they
must be it.
Hit anything else but
their
toe.
Absolutely not.
Perfectly fine. Weren't throwing anything up. Weren't dehydrated.
What could go wrong?
The last fun fact from what happened at this year's Octoberfest which I thought was pretty hilarious. Of all those people, 7.2 million people, only 7 children were lost.
Wow.
That's it. Only 7 children.
It's a lot in a way. But at the same time, that's not bad. But no. I guess how many children were there? Like what? It was like, honey, let's go to Oktoberfest. Let's bring the little one along.
And it didn't say if they were found. It just said
that's
7
true.
children were lost. So we don't know if they were found.
That I suppose that's true. There's just 7 of them that are gone now. May the force be with you, I guess. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, that's 7.2 million people.
Yep, this year's
state fair is
Oktoberfest.
big, but my God, that's a lot.
And I bet they have a lot of good food over there too. A lot of German food, brats, kraut, all that stuff. The
absolutely.
German potato salad is so good.
I don't even like sauerkraut, but there I would just
I would eat it too.
Hype it on there. Heap it on there. That's the word. Really good with the English phrases today. Yeah, I'd absolutely try some of that on a German bratwurst.
For sure. Like authentic food. Heck yeah. Like I can't stand sauerkraut either at all, but I would, if I was in Germany, I would be eating some sauerkraut on some real authentic German food with some beer and stuff over the heck. Yeah, I would.
100%. If you don't like the taste of that, well, just go ahead and fire back another Oktoberfest and you'll be okay.
There you go.
Yeah. It does make me wonder. I wonder. So it's the Oktoberfest celebration. And they got all these different foods. Do you think they got like multiple kinds of beer? Or is it just on Oktoberfest?
I would assume they would have other types of beer there, but
could you imagine getting that contract?
They all have their own.
You're in charge of like one brewery. That's the whole thing. All right, guys. Production level has to ramp up. In 6 weeks, we have Oktoberfest. We need 2 million gallons ready to go.
That would be crazy.
That'd be insane. But
the amount of ingredients you would need to make
just
2 million
sourcing.
gallons.
Oh my God. Yeah. Cause it's, you think, like, all right, 2 million gallons, you're going to add a bunch of stuff. So it's less gallonage of water, but there's so much you lose with burn off when you're boiling that, it takes to do 5 gallons of beer. It takes like 6 plus gallons to be able to do it. So you're getting almost another full gallon off of that just from burn off.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll have to chat more about that with, we'll try to get Brandon on the podcast sometime. He'd be able to, he'd probably got a stat or a metric that right off the top of his noggin that he'll be able to just drop some knowledge. That's a question we got to
write down and keep track of so we remember to ask him.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll put that in my 2-beer notate that to try and remember that at this point in time. So somebody in the comments for our social media pages, go ahead and put that in there to remind me to make sure to ask him about that. So. So yeah, that's kind of our rundown of Shells Brewery and kind of the Oktoberfest as a whole. We're gonna again hit Breckenridge next episode. So if you get a chance to be able to head out, go ahead and get your favorite Breckenridge or any Breckenridge or maybe a mix pack of Breckenridge. Otherwise, we're going to be doing the Breckenridge Oktoberfest. So if you want to have that along with us, that'd be fantastic to be able to go ahead and do that. Go ahead and put your comments in any of our social media platforms. Again, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X. I guess it's weird to say that. I haven't quite. I don't know.
I don't think anybody calls it X.
It's
I think
weird.
Everybody still calls it Twitter.
It's weird. I don't know. It's just not a phrase that like, okay, X. Well, you're talking about your ex, or are you talking about the whatever? That's neither here nor there.
But it's still used widely. I don't think it's
the platform
changed.
Formerly known as Twitter. That is now
there
X.
you go.
That one, YouTube and Rumble. Of course, find us on all the major platforms for download. So the proverbial like, share, and subscribe. But yeah, drop a note in the comments. Tell us what you thought about this beer. Tell us what you think about Breckenridge, and then give us ideas. If you're looking for a certain brewery that you'd like to know more about, obviously it's pretty easy to just go ahead and Google. But at the same time, if you'd like us to talk about it, we'd be happy to be to bring the information live and in person right into your earlobes. That's what we're here for. It's one of the many services that we provide. So. Yeah, if you have anything you'd like to be able to add or questions for us, comments, concerns, hopes, dreams, fears, rumors. Somebody added that to me that one time when I was talking to him, and I thought that was kind of fun to rumors. Yeah, I like never know. Yeah. Like a good little rumor here every so often. So, but yeah, that's our episode with Shells Brewery, and I want to wish all the best to Jace Marty and his family now taking over the Shells Brewery and moving forward with that. Congratulations to them as they continue the same lineage. I don't know if Chase has any kids, but that's, what did we say? 6 generations?
Sixth generation now, Shells. Yeah.
6th generation family owned.
Now,
Yeah. So quite historic and quite incredible. So any further notes to add?
No, I don't have anything left for today. Just go out and buy yourself some Schell's Octoberfest beer. It's really good beer. I'm kind of mad I've never had it before. So I think I'll be having some more of this. And just thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate it. And God bless you all.
And thanks for listening. My name is Andy Beckstrom for Shawn Field. Until next time, have a great night, everybody.